Hi, my name is Fleury Simons. I'm from the Netherlands and I'm going to tell you something about my long COVID recovery process. In September 2020, I got my first COVID infection and I felt very sick. I immediately noticed that it definitely felt different than like just a normal flu. And after 2.5 weeks of being in quarantine, I went outside and I went for a little walk and for some grocery shoppings. But then I noticed that I could barely move my legs. And after the grocery shopping, I went back home and with like 3 bags of groceries, I walked and it just like my body just didn't work. I managed to get home, but it took me like 40 minutes while it's only like a 5-minute walk. And I felt so frustrated. I felt so strange and I didn't know what was happening with my body. So that was really hard. And in that period of time, it was so hard to figure out what I could do and how I could manage my boundaries. And everyone will probably relate to this. You just don't know what is happening with your body. And it takes quite a while to figure out how to manage this illness. So for me, my main symptoms were extreme tiredness, exhaustion, breathing issues, very short-breathed. I felt like I could barely breathe, and because of that, I felt so anxious. Also, I could barely walk. I didn't have any strength or stamina left. I couldn't carry things, and I became so clumsy, which isn't in my character at all. So I felt so frustrated about that because I felt like everything completely changed and I just didn't recognize myself anymore, if that makes sense. I think it probably will make sense because like this illness just changed your life in every aspect. So I definitely felt so powerless. And I also had severe sleep problems, anxiety, cognitive difficulties like lack of concentration. I couldn't come up with words, and extreme difficulties with stimulus. Like I couldn't handle any noise, smell, or sound. And most of the time I laid in bed for 20 up to 22 hours per day. So my quality of life was just like very low. And after 1.5 years, I felt a little bit better, not in the sense that I had quality of life, but I could definitely notice like really small improvements. Like sometimes I could focus a little bit more on a good day, or I could meet up with a friend at my house. I even managed to go on a trip, of course, with a lot of adjustments, but it definitely went a little bit better. But then in June 2022, I got my second COVID infection. And after that, I totally relapsed and it felt like I was back in September 2020. And for me, this was very hard mentally. I also get a little bit emotional when I'm talking about that because it was such a hard time and I really tried to be positive. But the second COVID infection, it broke me down, just like mentally, emotionally. So I felt really depressed and I asked my family for help. So we looked for treatments in other countries. And this because of the fact that the Netherlands was and still is very far behind in like research and treatment options. So very long story short, we found a treatment in the USA and it felt impossible because it was so extremely expensive. But I also felt that this could be my answer. So in December 2022, I went to the USA, and after 4 months of treatments, I came back to the Netherlands in April 2023. And I definitely noticed that there was different in my body, but I didn't make a lot of progress. And my physician told me that it could take a while and the effects of treatment could last for like 6 months after finishing treatment. So this was definitely the case for me because in those upcoming months, I could do more and more, like more activities and just hanging out with friends and families. And I noticed that my like cognitive difficulties, they were totally gone. So I recovered. Like after a few months, I totally recovered from all my symptoms. And this last year has been very surreal. After 2.5 years of long COVID, of being sick with long COVID, I can live my life again. And I'm so grateful for that. And sometimes, honestly, sometimes it still feels like a dream. So for me, like the 3 things that helped me in my recovery process. Number 1, of course, my treatment. I did HBOT, Hyperbaric Oxygen Therapy, with a multidisciplinary approach. Also with like a lot of assessments prior to the treatment, but also like after the treatment, and like a 6-month follow-up. This treatment is just like one of a kind, and I know like a lot of organizations or like clinics, they offer HBOT, but this is definitely different than just a normal HBOT. That said, I don't believe that there is one solution. I think long COVID is very, very complex. So what could work for one person doesn't mean that it's also going to work for another person. But for me, this like was a major thing in my recovery. If I didn't follow the treatment, I definitely didn't get better. That's just, that's for me. Then like the second thing I would say is the TMS vision, or like, I think you call it vision. It stands for tension myositis syndrome, and it's about the impact of underlying and or suppressed emotions. This doesn't mean that long COVID is all in your head, not at all. It means that certain emotions and stress can result in physical complaints. And for me, this method, or vision, how you call it, helped me a lot in my recovery process. Especially when I came back to the Netherlands, I was so freaking anxious and really afraid that the treatment wouldn't work out for me, or that I would get COVID again. Like so many uncertainties and anxiety. And this really helped me to calm me down and to face my emotions and fears, which definitely helped me with my progress and also the speed of the progress. And my third one is someone you can trust and who's there for you. Like even if it's only one person. For me, my sister really supported me, and she still does. I lost quite a few friends, and a lot of people wouldn't understand what it meant to have long COVID. Sometimes it feels like everyone lives in their own little bubble and just focus on themselves, and I always found that kind of sad. But when I got long COVID, this became worse and worse, because so many people wouldn't take the effort to reach out or try to empathize with the situation. So this was very hard, but it also made some friendships and connections even stronger. So I think if you have good people around you, that is definitely helpful in the recovery process, and of course in life in general. So my final advice would be, don't give up on hope. I know it's so freaking hard to deal with this illness. You probably feel hopeless and frustrated, angry, powerless, sad, like all kind of emotions, and that is so legitimate. Even when everyone thought that I wouldn't recover, or that people would have an opinion about me going to the other side of the world for treatment, I always believed and hoped that my situation would change. That doesn't mean that you can fix everything with mindset, not at all. But just like the old saying, hope gives life. And I think that's definitely the case.